This might not be the case anymore in 2025, but when I moved as a kid, an 8-year-old kid from America, I was kind of a chubby little kid. I moved to the village of Heerhugowaard in the Netherlands. I started playing outside with all the local kids. And naturally, in the Netherlands, the only sport that really matters is soccer. So I went from being a chubby kid that grew up in La Crescenta in California. I was eating Twinkies and brownies and just I love the 7-Eleven nachos. Ooh. I went from there straight into the street life of the Netherlands, which is basically just playing soccer every single day until all our moms would say etenstijd, which means that it was time to come home for dinner. It was a beautiful way to grow up. But the reason I'm making this video is because all the kids, they were all really good at soccer and they were all in amazing shape. So I always felt like I was 2 steps behind. And I don't know if this is still the case in 2025, but in the 90s, if you got picked last for soccer, ooh, I wasn't really that good at it. My position was a right defender, I think because that's where I could, cause the least amount of damage. I was talking to one of my clients the other day and she said she was in basketball in middle school here in America and she was really good at it. She loved it, but she was always kind of chunky as a kid and she was playing really well. She was on the A team of basketball. And then one of her classmates called her jelly jugs, which I think is a really weird insult from a girl to a girl. But that little insult that got into her head, and then she started playing basketball worse, and then she got put to the B team. And then ever since then, it was just a negative spiral. And I think if you, as a kid, get picked on or you're not in great shape as a kid, maybe you were a little bit chubby as a kid, you didn't have the greatest role model as a kid when it comes to health and fitness, then it's very natural for you to feel as a kid that you're just like naturally out of shape. And then this leads you into avoiding team activities and just being insecure, going to places that involve a pool, and it affects your self-confidence. And the reason I'm saying this is because I see this often with my clients. They were just living in this fog of thinking that they're just not meant to have a nice body. And that's such a false narrative. Anybody can get the body of their dreams, but there's really 2 prerequisites that you need in order for this to happen. One is that you have to have this strong desire. Like Napoleon Hill says, you have to burn your bridges and you have to take imperfect, massive action and just learn as you go along. Like what Jeff Bezos says, starting a business is jumping off a building and inventing the parachute on the way down. That's how you should approach you getting into flat stomach territory or even six-pack city. Jump off that building and just invent the parachute on the way down, figure it out as you go along. But secondly, once you realize that your body is basically a machine that will give you consistent outputs based on the inputs that you put in, then your success is inevitable. See, when I had this really strong desire at the age of 19, I started researching everything, training protocols, the nutrition science, the recovery methods. I tracked everything to the T. And then 3 years of total obsession later, I got a 6-pack and I've been maintaining it ever since. But here's the deal. I obsessed so hard that the ways in which I got lean were really built on unsustainable methods. Because as real life started happening and I started getting higher stress levels, started building my business, I started letting go of my habits that got me into shape. And that is when I really learned the difference between optimization and systemization. If you see the fitness models and the people who are in the most perfect shape, a lot of times they got there by optimizing everything. Now, optimization basically means that you have perfect conditions. But the difference between being optimized versus having systems is that systems work even when you don't have perfect conditions. And 99.9 thousand of my clients, they live in the real world where conditions are rarely perfect. And this is why in my own program, I built my lifestyle method to really work with chaos, not despite it. And if you are a woman and you found that maybe you already are in shape, but the methods that got you in shape are not sustainable, or maybe you are in shape and you find it very hard to sustain just in general, or maybe you are not in shape right now, but you also know that you cannot commit to the extreme methods that you hear about. My recommendation for you is to use the exact same analytical mindset that you use for your job and your career and your profession and maybe even your family, and use that for your health and fitness. Because I kid you not, if I see one more more successful woman in their career who has everything figured out. Architects, successful business owners. I have women who own big hair salons. I have women who are very successful realtors. They know how to close deals left and right. They walk down Newport Beach Boulevard with their red bottom shoes, pow, 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 closing deals, making sales. And they're so good at what they do. But when it comes time to eat, they just don't even know. It's almost like they don't even know how to use a fork and knife. They just stick their head into the bowl of macaroni at Maggiano's and they just if you're successful in your career, it's very likely that you have a very analytical mind. We tend to overanalyze everything. This puts us in analysis paralysis. We get information overload. That analytical mind of yours is not a weakness. Those same problem-solving skills that you use at work, use them in your nutrition, in your training, in your sleep, in your water intake. How many of you women are dehydrated like lizards? Sometimes when you have challenges and problems or goals and desires that you want to hit, you just have to look at them through a different lens. Because what's the best diet in the world? The one you're going to stick to. Should you strength train? Yes, absolutely. Especially women over 40. Strength training is the only way that you're going to actually offset your declining estradiol type estrogen. Should you eat real foods, single ingredient foods? Well, probably a good idea, but find the foods that you love and come up with a system that is repeatable every single day, almost that it takes all the think work out of it. And then lastly, look, if you want to lose weight, you need to lose 20, 40 pounds, you're going to have to know how much you weigh. So get real with your numbers. I know you don't want to hear that. If you have your own business, you're going to track your numbers of your income, your expenses. How is it that you're not doing that for your own weight? If you track your weight every single day, you will be paying attention to that number. Not only will you build calluses up to what the number is, you will get less emotional about that number. And when you pay attention to a number, that number is going to do what you want it to do. Same thing goes for your calories and, dare I say, your protein intake. And then you got your cardio, you got your sleep, you got your water intake, you got your stress levels. If you feel like you need help with this, I am relaunching my Driven Woman Transformation Program, where we start the process with step number 1, which is losing 20 to 40 pounds of stomach fat right away. Then we boost your energy, we improve your sleep quality, we fix your posture, we make you build muscle, visible muscle definition. We have you complete strength training workouts in anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, and then we eradicate stress eating forever. This is in essence my whole entire lifestyle method. And if you want to learn more, then DM me the word driven and we'll see if it makes sense for you to even join.